There'll always be a need for mobility of people and goods and services, whether it's through the highways, the ports, the rail.
The DOTD allows you to get to work, buy the groceries, get the kids to school. It is an extremely, extremely important responsibility.
There is no segment of society that is not touched on a daily basis by the Department of Transportation and Development. Well, I was very fortunate because I had served as a state senator for the parishes of Iberia and St. Martin from 1972 to 76. And it gave me a tremendous benefit for when I became Secretary of Transportation, because I learned how important the Department of Transportation really is and was, especially to the rural parishes. Governor Dave Treen, was adamant on making the Department of Transportation and funds necessary for transportation and development to be one of his top priorities. And if the Secretary of the Department of Transportation and the governor don't have the support of the legislature, it's very, very difficult to accomplish what is necessary. And we had, fortunately, a $2 billion budget. At the time, our budget in the Department of Transportation was larger than the budget for the entire state of Mississippi. And that's why it's so very, very important, I think, for the Secretary of the Department of Transportation to be well versed and establish a very good relationship with the legislature, both the House and the Senate.
Keeping the system running at all times, it is not a simple job. It's not an easy job. My name is Cam Movasagi, and I was secretary from October of 1998 all the way through 2004. You know, in a organization, change doesn't come easy. The time program was based on a different philosophy. We're going to do these 16 projects, and there were some massive projects among those 16. And we're going to do it in a certain period of time with a certain amount of money. And we said, okay, we are going to start looking for people outside of the department in the industry that can do things like that. They are familiar with this kind of processes. So basically, we took day-to-day activities of the projects out of the department and gave it to these consultants and said, okay, you manage it, you handle it. Of course, regulation-wise, approval-wise, and all of that still had to be done in the department. I sincerely believe that time program was a successful program. It was completed in 2012 when the Hugh P. Long Bridge was opened.
My name is Johnny Bradbury, and I was Secretary of DOTD serving under Governor Kathleen Blanco from 2004 to 2008. I retired from an oil and gas company in the latter part of 2003, and I got a phone call, and it was to come and visit with the governor. I met with Governor Blanco, and she listened to my spiel on oil and gas, and she said, okay, that's great. You know your oil and gas, but that's not what I want you to do. I want you to become Secretary of the Department of Transportation. Her primary goal was to improve the department, was to work on the processes that drive the department. She looked at my resume and said, what we're interested in is your expertise in process, what drives a business. And one of the things that I feel like I've really made an impact on was to sort of accelerate that program, timed program. You know, bring the projects to light, the Huey Long Bridge, the St. Francisville Bridge, I-49, 165 improvements, etc. That program was not moving as fast as it could have been. I'm really proud of the emphasis we placed on it. Katrina and Rita really shifted our priorities from improving the department to plan defense and trying to really recover. However, having said that, I'm really, really proud of some of the things that we got done relative to Katrina and Rita. I am extremely proud of how fast the department responded and reacted to the repair of the twin span from New Orleans to Slidell. You know, a project that would take typically in its life cycle 5 to 7 years to design and implement. And the department stepped up and did a design replacing that bridge in 7 months.
Well, the Department of Transportation has changed over the years since I started in 1985. Starting in 1985, there were very few women engineers here working at the department, and certainly not many in leadership positions. So to be the first female secretary of the Department of Transportation was certainly very rewarding and fulfilling experience for me. Governor Jindal's vision on transportation was to, improve the quality of life and transportation throughout the state. After Hurricane Katrina, the state had surplus money, and we were very strategic in coming up with the plan on where to put that surplus money. His priority was to fully fund and construct I-49 North from the I-220 interchange up to the Arkansas state line. The other focus was on I-49 South as well, and we were able to do quite a number of projects along that corridor. And then with regards to rehab, I-55, I'll never forget this, it was in magazines as one of the bumpiest roads in the country, and so we were able to fully rehabilitate I-55 all the way to the state line and made it a much smoother ride, and now it's not listed in articles anymore as being the worst road. When you receive one-time money, again, you can make incredible investments and improvements in transportation, but it's so important to have a sustained revenue source so that you can really plan.
Well, first of all, infrastructure is never a partisan issue. You don't have Democrat roads or Republican roads. You have motorists out there who are looking for a safe, reliable route to get to and from work. It enhances quality of life, but it also moves commerce. We know that we have one of the oldest gas taxes in the country and one of the lowest. And over the years that it's been in place, it's been 16 cents without any adjustments. And because of the erosion of the purchasing power of the dollar due to inflation, that 16 cents is worth less than half of that today. And so we had a task force that met 2017, recommended just increasing the gas tax just to restore the full purchasing power to what it was originally at 16 cents, despite the fact that there was bipartisan support for that in the Ways and Means Committee in the House of Representatives. It never did get a vote on the floor. But when we weren't successful, we didn't give up. We started looking for alternative ways to deliver projects and doing that from financing, but also through project delivery. And so we've done things like Garvey bonds, for example. For the first time in the state's history, 4 major capacity projects are being delivered with Garvey bond participation. The bridge and tunnel replacement in Belle Chase, the I-10 widening here in Baton Rouge, the flyover connection in Kenner to the new airport, and also the on-ramp and off-ramp into Barksdale.
The way we're operating is totally different than what we did 100 years ago. You know, I tell people this is not your grandfather's DOT anymore. When I became secretary, we had a $1.2 billion budget. Now we're looking at a $2.9 billion budget because this governor, this administration, this legislature has been absolutely bullish and hungry for infrastructure investment. So we spent American recovery dollars, we've spent COVID response dollars, we've spent surplus money, we've spent new money that we've been receiving from the BP oil settlement. The reality is none of that's going to work unless it can be sustained. I'm happy to tell you that this governor has signed the vehicle sales tax legislation, which is going to produce about $250 million additional money every year. The dollar amount is great, but the policies around that are what's going to really secure these types of projects. Citizens don't care who owns a piece of infrastructure. They just want it to work for them. We've actually dedicated a certain amount of money to 4 mega projects, but more importantly, we've put some parameters on how to bond that money up so that we do not find ourselves robbing Peter to pay Paul. You see, when we build a new bridge, we widen a road or we make a road safer with a J-turn or a roundabout. All of that contributes to a quality of life and enhanced mobility for a number of years to come.
The next 100 years for the Department of Transportation, I believe that the department will continue to move forward. I believe that they will look to new technologies. You know, what are the vehicles going to look like within the next 100 years? How will people be mobile?
This is a job that requires quite a bit of innovation, quite a bit of thinking, coming up with new ways, because our state deserves it.
That's what makes the difference in all that we do. It's the people. So when I look back across this 100-year history and I hear the stories that have been told in some of our panels, some of our lectures, I think about the people that made the difference.
Well, I'm excited about the next 100 years. My hope for the next 100 years for DOTD is that in the next 25 years, eliminate the backlog. And I think with the addition of monies coming in to the department now, you know, I think there's a good chance that we can do that.
The next 100 years, I hope that the mega projects that we are launching in the last 2 years of this administration actually begin to produce the value that we know they will. Whether it's the new bridge over the Mississippi or the I-10 bridge in Calcasieu or I-49 South, where I grew up, the reality is we now have recurring revenue, we've advanced the environmental process, and the delivery models have been so key for us in the Department of Transportation.
Just making sure that we are being as aggressive as possible, thinking outside the box, pursuing all of the different ways that make sense to deliver projects, both in terms of the way they're procured, but also how they are financed.
We're also excited about the next 100 years in terms of electric vehicles, policy implementations like complete streets and active transportation, taking care of the most vulnerable users of our system, people who are going to walk or who are going to be on a bicycle or depend on transit. Those are policy solutions that weren't around 100 years ago. You see, that history from 100 years ago was really about roads and bridges and building the infrastructure. It was about ports. It was about the railroads. We're actually refining all of those systems and having a balanced transportation agenda that's going to be multimodal in nature. There's a lot of good that's happening in this state, and I'm so very proud to have led this organization at this high point in our history.